Today's meme of the day is...
That does it! I activate this card! Well, I activate this card! Then I activate this card! And I activate this card! Activate this card! I activate this! Well, I activate this! And I activate your mama! Then I activate... What?
Well, we got from one matchup that was going to have one hell of a fan base getting mad to potentially another fan base getting mad, and who better to bring someone in who's very loud and annoying other than Jedi Bender, aka Saber King of Brobuscast.
I don't know. I think we're both tied for loud and annoying. Happy to be here.
Listen, I'm a Jigglypuff. You're a Loudred. Alright? I'm adorable.
Are you?
No, that means you just repeat every time you speak.
Exactly.
If anything, Sean is adorable.
I don't know. He looks like
Where did that come from? You?
I don't know. With his gas mask, he kind of looks like an SCP. SCP. SENAN. The most lethal SCP of them all.
But hey, we're talking about Gurren Lagann versus White Lantern, as they called it.
Yeah,
Already a stupid title.
it makes sense why they call it, to be honest, given the characters.
Hey, man.
No. I'll address some podcast, but it was. I'll just say this: I'm happy they're rectifying it, and they're going to change the title to be more truthful to the characters.
But are you saying Kyle Rayner isn't a White Lantern?
He hasn't been a White Lantern for 10 years.
No, but when you think about his story arc, that's his biggest story arc.
I was gonna say, weren't there more than one White Lantern to be
There
there?
was.
But Kyle is genuinely the most common one, and the most overpowered one.
There's also more than one Green Lantern, but we didn't title it Ben 10 versus Hal Jordan, did we?
Nah, because, let's be real, when you think of, Hal Jordan, you just think of him as a superhero named the Green Lantern. And, yes, that is technically true, Kyle isn't technically a White Lantern as of now. He's gonna be a White Lantern again. It's comic books, man.
He's had once. He did come back as a White Lantern temporarily, but it acts more like a drug recession, where once all of the spectrums are being threatened, he starts to sweat profusely and he starts to lose his mind until the White Lantern kicks in and he has to go do what he's got to do to stop it.
Okay, we definitely have a different perspective on how Kyle's powers work. Before we get to freaking White Lantern being a metaphor for drugs, even though it's not, let's address...
the comic, Bill.
I read comic books, man. And trust me, yes, when it comes to dire situations, the White Lantern is a powerful form, but using drugs for it is a weird analogy. Because it's not like that. Right then, but we kind of also have to address why this matchup also kind of exists.
Yes.
And we've talked about it in the past, lads discuss death battles. This was a spite matchup originally. I mean, it probably still is.
Yeah, because people wanted to see a DC Herald lose to a non-Marvel character for once, so they started pushing this fight. Then people looked into it and were like, oh, it looks like Kyle might actually win, and they were like, oh, okay, never mind, we don't want it, abort. But by that point, the matchup was too popular, and Will of the Drill did not help them.
It also doesn't help that the characters actually have quite a few interesting connections, so it's like, isn't this what we kind of look for in a versus debate? You want to find, characters who are very similar, how can their powers work, how they interact, who could counter one another, that's kind of a thing when it comes to versus things, find characters who are similar and see who could win. Like, yes, we lost Sean here.
Sean disagreed with your statement.
he disagreed with it
No,
so
the matchup
much.
was so spiteful it killed him.
Oh god.
Don't worry, I'll clone a new Sean. There we go. Good as new.
Screw your clone.
We want the original Sean back, not
Yeah,
this false
only
Sean.
original recipe on lads.
Exactly.
That's not happening.
Well, thanks
Only
to...
original recipe people, not necessarily comedy.
I mean,
God damn it, Lord. I literally said this matchup has a complicated history. This one was like, no talking about that.
yeah.
Continue, Billy.
Yeah, so... Now, I will be the first to admit, when it comes to DC Heralds as well as Green Lantern characters, Kyle isn't my first choice. Like, if you were to tell me, oh, think of your top 5 favourite Green Lanterns right now, I'd be like, oh, Guy Gardner, Hal Jordan, John Stewart, like, Jesus Christ, the absolute Chad, Jessica Cruz, and Kilowog. I love Kilowog. Like, as far as Green Lanterns goes, that one that's not human, Kilowog is a freaking unit. I remember in the animated series, there was like a moment he lost his energy in his ring, he started talking this alien language. Even hearing him say the Green Lantern oath in his alien language sounded epic.
Kutushudag, Plaskesnak, Ekadil Skal for Ogum, Latapa Ken Kuna Soatilja, Ilusa Bakamis, Orin Vata. Yeah, that's the stuff.
He also had a really epic voice actor behind him as well, that definitely helped. But,
Epic voice acting helps anybody, really.
yeah. But Kyle's one of those Green Lanterns where it's like, oh yeah, like... Okay, I don't want to say like he was meant to be the replacement for Hal Jordan. So, when Kyle...
He actually was.
He kind of was to an extent where, you know, when a main character dies, DC or Marvel always try and bring in like, okay, now we need someone to take up the mantle. Because this was during the arc when... Big shocker, a superhero was turned into a villain. Hal Jordan went a little bit crazy with, you know, the willpower and the Green Lanterns.
In his defense, his whole city got destroyed and his wife was killed, so he thought he could bring them back, and that's kind of what kicked off his, you know, villainy, was using all the willpower from all the Green Lanterns to bring his city back.
Yeah, I will say it is one of my favourite dark stories in DC. Like, you know, we see that story all the time when a hero becomes a villain. Jesus Christ, how many times has Iron Man become a villain in the comic books? To the point it's like when they reboot, it's like, all right, how many issues till Iron Man becomes a villain? Oh, they didn't waste any time. Issue 1. You know, it's typical story of villain, you know, heroes becoming villains, but I feel as though Hal Jordan was one that was really well written and even tragic. Like, you know, it wasn't just like, well, we need someone to be evil. And, you know, they could have easily made Jessica Cruz a villain. At one point they kind of did, but they retconned that because people hated it. Even I hated it. So it kind of ruined her whole character development. But Hal kind of made sense because when it came to Green Lanterns, not only is he the most iconic one, he's also one of those characters where if he did turn evil, it's kind of tragic because he's a Green Lantern who's always like very like happy. He's also very jokery, like, you know. Like, he's a fun person, like, even when in the midst of the battle.
Say he's jokery.
He's, yeah, what the f***'s jokery?
Like, you know, he
Billy,
makes loads of
making up
jokes.
new
Are you
word.
implying he's like the Joker?
Billy's
believe he
Dictionary.
is.
Today, the word of the day, jokery.
Jokery. Hey, is your villain not funny enough for you? Then have a bottle of jokery. It'll make your guys laugh for days.
I can promise you, Hal has never been categorized as jokery.
Yeah, well, what I mean is, like, he's like a very funny character. Like, he's very comedic, stuff like that.
He's charismatic.
No, charismatic and comedy are separate things. Charismatic means, like, you're very, like, you know, you have a lot of charisma.
MCU movie.
What? I'm sorry, Jedi Bender, did you leave your comedy in the Brobuscast server? Because it's clearly not coming into the lad server. You're just adding words and hoping for funnies.
I didn't make jokery a word.
So,
I mean, at least that was funny.
Then how John
I now want to see a
Jessica
brand of whiskey called Jokery.
Coming to stores near you. But yeah, Sean, you are
DC,
right.
get on that.
Now, in terms of like describing Kyle, it's like I wouldn't say he was trying, like the writers were trying hard to make him the new Hal Jordan. Like, I think he was definitely more straightforward in terms of like his sort of character, but also thrown in a bit of humor now and then.
Kyle was so when I've recently gone back and reread all of Kyle's run as a Green Lantern when he was first introduced, and I can say that he's arguably he's still my personal favorite Lantern just because of his different personality and how different he is from Hal. Mainly just because he immediately has a tragic backstory. That's something Hal didn't have when he first started out. Hal was just a go-getter.
Well, okay, that's not entirely true, but yeah, he didn't have like a tragic.
Kyle in a moment, though.
Oh yeah, we got to talk about Simone.
Yep, I was about to say we've talked nothing but DC.
Yeah, blame Richard.
With Kyle, he's had years of comic books, but with Simone, from what I understand, Gurren Lagann only had 26 episodes, right, Richard?
It has the one anime, 2 movies, which essentially are updated versions of the anime. It has a manga series that are an expansion of the anime scripts. It also has light novels, which offer whole new material sections, expanding upon certain key moments in the anime, and it's actively considered one of the greatest satirical takes on a mecha anime in Japan.
Well, in your opinion, because Bill was talking about like a little bit about Kyle's personality and everything, how would you describe Simone, since a lot of us aren't familiar with Gurren Lagann?
Yeah, I've yet to actually watch it.
So Simone's personality is very much, in my opinion, it's all about conquering the limits that are set before you and drilling, in his own words, past them and going as far as you can to reach the goal that you want to go. Simone's a very he's a very spirited character. He comes from humble beginnings. He just wanted to go past his limits. He wanted to make a name for himself, and his big brother helped him with that initially. And as time progressed, Simone started coming into his own to find out what kind of person was he going to be now that his brother was gone. And the whole idea is Simone represents essentially the indomitable will, where no matter how many times you're put down, as long as you have a greater willpower and as long as you believe in the you that you believe in, his own words and his brother's own words, then nothing is impossible. You will conquer your goals and you will crush the limits set before you. So I guess you can think of him kind of like Goku.
I was about to say.
About breaking his limits. And
Goku, if he was in a mecha anime.
Pretty much, yes. And Simone's a very charming and lovable character. He's actually, in my opinion, he's very underrated. He's not talked about as one of the great anime protagonists. And the irony is he's not even a shonen character. He has shonen-like qualities, but he himself is not an adaptation of any existing shonen manga.
Because, like, to be fair to Simone, the anime came out before the manga back in 2007. I took a look at that.
Correct.
So it might be just because a lot more animes have come out since Simone's time. He's kind of left in the past, but, you know, Death Battle can just bring that charm back to Simone, like the different other anime characters. So it's definitely possible. There's only one more question I have about Simone. Why is his nickname the Digger?
Because he came from a village that was underground, and their whole deal was they dug. They were trying to dig tunnels in order to get food. But Simone was the best digger of them all because he was able to literally listen and be in tune with his drill and know exactly where he was drilling. And that's pretty much what made him get the nickname The Digger. He's the best digger in his universe, and that doesn't just apply to, oh, he can dig tunnels. No, he can literally dig anything, even in his own mecha, which also has a drill. The drill is
Yeah, he's well in tune with his own drill, ladies.
Yeah.
I was resisting. I was resisting. I was like, must resist.
That's
easy
the
joke.
irony of the first episode. In the first episode, all the ladies of his village call him a freak and deem him undesirable because he's a driller. So didn't have much going for him there, sadly. But yeah.
Hold on. So he comes from humble beginnings, has bad luck with women.
Initially.
I'm not done.
Okay.
Let him finish the bit, man.
Hard work. Believes he can achieve your dreams through hard work and determination. Yeah, he sounds like an anime protagonist.
Yes,
I was
exactly.
Gonna say, from the personality perspective, I can understand why people want this as a matchup.
Yes, and also too, his drill is his greatest weapon. I'll get into that later. But yeah, personality-wise, I would disagree with Bill. If you watch the show, read the manga, you would see that both Kyle and Simone have very similar characteristics, and both at the end of the day are about using their willpower.
Is Simone jokerable?
I don't know.
Also, Richard, jokery, yeah. Also,
jokery.
Richard, when you said like, oh, you disagree with me about their personalities not matching, what at any point did I say that? I know nothing about Simone. What do you mean you disagree with me on site? I did. You know what, Bill? I disagree with what you said about Simone. I said nothing. Exactly.
No, it was mostly about the thematics. Like, you didn't see the thematics.
I want to use that for the next Let's
No,
Play.
I literally used it. I literally saw the thematics. I was literally praising like, oh, why did people want this episode? Oh, it's very thematic. Oh, okay. It also doesn't help that the characters actually have quite a few interesting connections. So it's like, isn't this what we kind of look for in a versus debate? You want to find, you know, characters who are very similar. How can their powers work? How they interact? Who could counter one another? You know, that's kind of a thing when it comes to versus things. You know, find characters who are similar and see who could win. That's literally what I said.
I did not hear, on my end, it legit sounded like you saying, I do not understand this matchup because I don't know if it has any conflicts.
Well, you clearly were not listening.
I was listening. Discord just doesn't like you.
Well, that's something we have in common.
Well, yeah, he's a Bill. I'm glad you got that.
Out of curiosity, though, to be fair, because, like, how many of us only heard about this matchup through the drill? Let's be honest.
Wait, if that's not playing during this, we have failed as a race.
I was going to say, yeah, can that please be playing?
Yeah. If I have to be honest, I only heard about it through, sadly, the behind-the-scenes story about this, and from a few toxic people I used to be friends with in the Versus community.
So, I actually have a very humble passing of how I came across this matchup, and it had nothing to do with the behind-the-scenes or the commission track itself.
That being said, the commission track is so goddamn good. One of Brandon's best.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It was one of his highest viewed tracks up until Game Over came out.
And it was most expensive.
Wait, mate, hold on.
Yes,
you already said it's great. That usually when you say things are great, that means it's mid. So you got to up it a bit.
Oh god, oh, what have I done?
You said it was mid according to someone on our Discord. Saying great is the equivalent of mid. You fool!
Just like how saying something is good is the equivalent of calling it bad.
Yeah, pretty
That's
much.
actually true by their logic, oddly enough.
It really is. So, I heard about this matchup from my best friend, John Mitchell, who's the storyboarder of Death Battle. And
He is?
5 years yes.
Wow.
I know you're being sarcastic.
I never knew that.
Brobuscast fact 101. Richard will never shut up about John Mitchell. This is a carryover. But John Mitchell actually showed me his fan-made script 5 years ago for this matchup and told me exactly why it was a great matchup that has so much potential. And I read this, and just hearing him talk about it and describing these characters to me, well, especially Kyle, because I was already a fan of Kyle. It was very well done, and also it paints a picture in my head that this is probably going to be a one-of-a-kind death battle where it's obviously going to have that All Might versus Might guy effect where it's just two people sparring with each other, trying to push their limits on who is the most dominable opponent of the two of them. And in the end, it could end with the both of them becoming friends.
Because, like, fun fact, they actually did a Death Battle cast with this matchup where John was representing Simone, I believe.
That is correct.
If that doesn't tell you how passionate that guy is about this matchup, nothing else is going to.
Yeah, so, and then when I heard the commission track, I loved it like everyone else, but I didn't pay much attention to the spite aspect of this debate because I don't like spite. I don't like spite fights, and I don't think a death battle should ever be made just so it can spite a franchise, because there's no fun in that.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Like, we're here to have fun. Death battles should be fun. Versus debating should be, fun.
Not according to Death Battle fans.
Not according to Death Battle fans, no.
But, do you know what, as far as, like, the anime goes, like, it's only through Death Battle, or mostly the Death Battle community, that I've spoken about the anime, and whenever I'll try and look up videos about it, sadly, I just have this bad luck whenever I try and type in, I'll see a trailer to a new anime, and I'll go, oh, let me check out what people say about it. A lot of the time, I'll see this new anime, and this is one of those animes that gets, like, that typical thumbnail, just like, cringe or woke or this is lame. Or it ruined the original manga. Though according to you guys, apparently the anime came out before the manga. So I'm starting to think I'm starting to think those.
The anime came out.
I'm wondering if it's just clickbait.
It really is.
Yeah.
I swear to God. Like I'm by
came
that.
out in June of 07, and the anime came out in April of 07.
Right. Like I don't know what it is, but I feel as though ever since like YouTubers, like I'm not trying to throw hate to these YouTubers. I just don't like the style of their thumbnails. Like, ever since, like, Quartering Guy and other YouTubers similar to him have done those really, like, oversaturation, like, red text sort of video, like, thumbnails. Anytime I try to look up, like, things I like mostly with anime and stuff like that, I always get those thumbnails. I always, like, clickbait saying how bad it is, and then I'll watch it, and it's like, oh no, they're just saying the show is like, it's not for me, and stuff like that. And this is one of those animes that I just tend to see a lot of just getting that sort of negative flack. But when it comes to, like, the Death Battle, like, community and stuff like that, as well as the fans of the series, people say it's actually it's a really cool anime that has a lot of meaning to it.
So Gurren Lagann, when I watched it for the first time months ago, I didn't fully prepare myself for just how real this anime felt, and I mean real in terms of it has themes, it has topics, and it also has conversations that feel like they are being talked about and discussed as if it was happening in the real world, but more heightened and with mechas instead. But also it's the characters, because that's, in my opinion, that's the main reason I would always recommend watching or looking up Gurren Lagann. It's the characters. It's all about where the characters are and how they kind of motivate and inspire you to want to be a better person. Again, it's the Goku effect. Goku's whole charm is that he inspires a lot of people to want to go out there and push their limits, but also at the same time, just don't pick a fight because you're that strong. No, just if you're going to be in a fight, use it as an opportunity to test yourself and your limits. Simone is all about pretty much just, when your back is against the wall, when you feel like everyone is telling you you can't go on, you should just quit, don't listen to them. Don't believe in their words, believe in your own words, because your words are the only thing that matters at the end of the day. As long as you believe in yourself, you can do anything.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like these two characters are really good at. Like, they're the embodiment of never giving up with their willpower of everything.
Yeah, in Kyle's case, because he's like an artist and stuff like that, he's always wanted to like, which is honestly the best person to wield a Green Lantern ring of all people. Like the ring's all about you need to be creative. Fitting. Yeah, so it's like, oh, how about get an artist? It's like, yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. Like the thing that's interesting about Kyle that's different from Hal is that Hal was very unorthodox with his Green Lantern ring. Like, you know, they inspire Green Lanterns like at the Corp to like be more creative, don't just do basic weapons. And Hal Jordan's one of those sort of people that someone brings a freaking holographic looking mace and he brings a freaking like baseball glove to block it. Like he's that sort of character. Whereas Kyle's a bit more like, he does like the basic things like, oh, he needs to stop this laser attack, so he'll do a laser as well. But he'll get a little bit more creative with some of his abilities, like, you know, trapping a villain in a birdcage, which is a Green Lantern that does that to a powerful villain will always get like, you did not have to disrespect him like that, but you did anyway, and I respect that. Like, isn't that just so demeaning? Like, isn't that demeaning? Like, you're this powerful, I can control reality, and I'm putting you in a birdcage. You're a dick. Like,
so
you're a bird.
You are now a bird.
Onto that, I want to say that Kyle has been confirmed to be a fan of everything Japanese related, and most of his constructs that he creates are references to popular Japanese culture. And there's even a panel, I wish I would have saved it so I could show it here today, but there's a panel where Kyle basically says, your things will not work, your blah 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 will not work on me, I love Japan. Basically saying, you can do whatever you want to me because you think you have Japan skills, but I love everything Japanese. Here's a Japanese mech to counter your bull.
So he's a weeb?
I was about to say.
He is DC. He's the only Green Lantern weeb, and it's all very much like how Shadow is a confirmed fan of Kill la Kill. It is actually canon that Kyle is a fan of Gurren Lagann because one of his constructs that he uses is the Gurren Lagann logo.
I actually don't actually know about that one. Kyle's actually been like a Green Lantern for a surprisingly. Like, you would think, oh, is he like one of those like newer characters? No, he's actually been with DC for a long time because like when his
30 years, if memory serves.
Oh no, way older than that. Way older than that. He was around during
he was introduced in the 90s. He was introduced.
No. Older than that. Older than that. Like 1930s. We're talking.
Kyle was not from the 1930s.
No, he was.
I'll look it up.
I swear it was 1930s.
Right here. Kyle Rayner first appeared in DC Comics in 1994.
I swear there was like a comic book from 1938 where he appeared.
Okay, no, there's not.
I'm gonna look this up. I don't think he was like a big main character, but he might have been a background character.
So I think most people know from like Ben versus Hal, even though I know people don't like the episode. They might get the idea of how Kyle can make his constructs. It's from his lantern, of course. Mm-hmm. How about Simone?
So Simone's main weapon is Gurren Lagann, which is a mech that can come apart. It has two separate pieces, the lower body and the head. So when it combines into Gurren Lagann, essentially Gurren Lagann is very similar to a Green Lantern ring. Simone can do and create anything he wants using his own inner power called the Spiral Force. The Spiral Force, for all intents and purposes, is very much like he meets the Force. He has honest thoughts
to hearing that was just the Speed Force, but it's a merry-go-round.
Oh, do you know what?
Kind of, yeah.
Spiral Force, I ain't gonna explain shit.
Yeah. You know, I also just looked into it. So what I got confused by, because I was just looking at messages from my friend. Yeah, he said Kyle has actually made constructs that have actually hurt Justice Leagues from like that.
The 1930s.
Yeah, so I was like, that makes more sense. I read their message wrong. I was like, I swear Kyle's not that old, but when I saw the message, I was like, I mean, this person I know is a big Green Lantern fan, but it's like, oh, no. Yeah, I'm more of a John Stewart person, so, you know, anything John Stewart related, I can answer your question. When it comes to Kyle, it's like,
no, it's okay.
So the spiral force is
yes,
he and the
yes.
force, basically.
Yeah, so the spiral force can allow Simon to make anything he wants with Gurren Lagann. So, obviously, since a drill is part of his weapon set and it's his main power source, Gurren Lagann's whole thing is drill attacks. But also, too, it can do other things. It can create weapons. It can regenerate its broken body parts if it ever gets damaged. It can breathe and operate underwater and survive the crushing pressures from the lowest of depths. It can travel out into space thanks to a jetpack it required. It can basically destroy the moon if it wanted to. And the craziest thing is when it merges or when it creates what is called Super Topen Pagan Gurren Lagann. I always mess up the pronunciation, so there's that. But
and you were just criticizing mate of saying Simone's name wrong before we recorded. How the turns
in favor of labeling Richard as a hypocrite, say I.
How the turns have coconutted.
Except my excuse is I'm famously bad at pronouncing things. What's y'all's excuse?
That's just a lame excuse. There we go. We're British. We can get away with whatever we say.
So basically, he uses the spiral force and uses his mech as the constructs.
Yes, exactly. And when he combines with his super mech, it is so big and it is so powerful, it essentially eclipses a galaxy/universe. It can grow bigger, too, when it combines, very similar to how Galactus can change his shape and size. And it also can just create new attacks whenever it wants. Some attacks that I like are just who the hell do you think I am punch, I have the best wife in the multiverse spin, let me see.
And we thought Kyle was a weeb.
Missiles,
this guy's just a dungeon dweller.
Are known to pretty much just take out anything they want at any time in the space-time continuum. So hypothetically, let's say that Kyle wanted to escape via the time stream. Simon could just fire these probability missiles, as he calls, to hit Kyle in both the past, the present, and the future. And Kyle won't have them hit him directly, but he'll feel them because they're attacking him in the time stream.
Where does Simone come up with some of these names, man?
Do you know what's funny? When I think about these two characters, Kyle and Simone, these two are the equivalent of those people in when they create their own OCs. Like, oh, well, my character could do this. Well, my character can fire missiles that can hit you in every single continuous time stream. It's like, why the f*** would your character need something like that? So they create.
Actually, come. What's up, Ron?
No, I was saying good question. It's like a compliment to Bill's thing.
Yeah, it's like don't get me wrong, like comic books, anime, freaking old school cartoons, characters do some outlandishly stupid shit. When you really think about it, it's like that's kind of overpowered. But you always get those sort of people when creating their characters that purely make them to be overpowered. And these two are the equivalent of that. This character could do this. Why? I don't know, I'll write a manga why he does that. Why does Kyle need to do something like this? He never fights villains this powerful often. Well, I'm going to now.
It's one of those things where it's just like, they just did it because rule of cool, really.
I suppose there's that.
Gurren Lagann's whole deal, it's about the rule of cool. Anything that you wouldn't think of could be an attack. And it goes hard with its anime names. And it's all about, and again, the irony is the show is not an action show. It is classified as a satire on mecha animes. So it's doing the classic mecha anime trope by having a big, loud, bombastic fight, while at the same time it's also trying to tell a story within its own universe about the indomitable human spirit.
Yeah. So, despite the fact that this episode might have been like mostly having started from spiteful intentions, when you look into it, there's a lot that these two have in common, and there's a lot of ways that they're going to make this fight bounce off each other really well.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about Simone's powers, but like Kyle's a Green Lantern. Like even if before we get to like the White Lantern stuff like that, like even as a Green Lantern, I mean most Green Lanterns are actually way more overpowered than people like to admit. Mostly the Ben 10 fans.
Pretty much.
Yeah, like don't get me.
Found out.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Actually, on that note, I have to wonder, what are the odds that we're going to see Kyle use a boo construct?
Oh god, if they were to do that at the start of the fight and it gets destroyed, that would be really hilarious.
To add on to what Billy is saying, I found out recently, Billy will like this, Green Lantern John Stewart is so overpowered, he actually created a whole universe with his brain.
He did. That was a really sick combat. Seriously, man, I'm looking forward to the Jon Stewart TV show and a Jessica Cruz TV show. That's going to be set in My Adventures of Superman series. DC, you are cooking.
So,
as am I.
So it's a great transition though, talking about like how absurd that Gurren Lagann seems to be, but the White Lanterns, oh boy.
Yeah, well, there's not
yeah,
really.
If you thought Green Lanterns were overpowered,
Yeah,
you might want to sit down.
Yeah, okay, so it's complicated with the White Lanterns because technically it's kind of like a. You know how like Dragon Ball has the typical like double fusion? White Lanterns basically every single Green Lantern power just mixed into one. And, you know, if you thought Green Lanterns were powerful, Blue Lanterns, man, like, whew! Those guys. Or the Red Lanterns, like, Jesus Christ. Red Lanterns are the equivalent of Kratos on steroids, and we know Kratos doesn't need steroids.
It's like Moon Knight's most famous comic book quote. Random bullshit. Oh, that's the best way to describe White Lanterns.
Actually, here's actually a sad fact, because I want to ruin this meme for people. That's actually a fake panel.
Boo.
I mean, I had a feeling.
However, if it makes you guys feel better, I kid you not, there is a Taskmaster panel where he goes domain expansion gun and shoots a wizard in the head. That is an actual moment in the comic. I'm not kidding. People, here's a random dub of that scene.
Deus Ex Machina.
You lie! Impossible!
Let me show you a super secret technique I learned off at the real Sorcerer Supreme.
Domain expansion! Gun!
That's not a real term. Nah, just kidding. Another minute of that and my hand would have been toast. Need to get to Deadpool.
I'm kind of laughing about something else since you brought that up.
Look, I'm not even kidding people. I'll show the comic book panel. But, yeah. But when it comes to, like, White Lanterns and stuff, like... Well, actually, no. I feel like to talk about Kyle, you have to also talk about his Green Lantern career because, well, he was a Green Lantern at first. He was meant... I guess as Richard says, he was meant to be a replacement for Hal Jordan, but I don't think that was the case. They were going to bring back Hal Jordan. They need to sell comic books, after all. It was just meant to... Oh, here's a new Green Lantern to join the roster of Green Lanterns, because, yeah, there is a lot of Green Lanterns.
Despite the fact there's only supposed to be one per sector.
Exactly. They break their own rules a lot of the time. Like, we only want one Green Lantern here. There's like 10 on Earth. One of them's a fucking cat. You think that's stupid? We have one that's a whole planet. No, people, I'm not making that up.
Oh no, I'm aware. And people want that guy to fight Ego.
Well, I will definitely say one fandom's getting an ego boost when that fight happens. How's that fight going to go? Is it just going to be planets just colliding into one another? Easiest animated fight of all time. Oh, Jesus. But, yeah, but... Okay, I was kind of saying, like, how, you know... I wouldn't even consider Kyle my top 5 favourite Green Lanterns. But is he a bad character? No, he's actually kind of a cool character. Like, I will say that I know we joked about the whole weeb thing. He's not really a weeb. It's just that he's a big fan of like other cultures.
Yes, he is.
One of those being Japan. No, weebs are obsessed with Japanese stuff. They're the ones with those freaking Japanese sex robots. I'm still disgusted that's an actual thing.
Well, Kyle is a respectable weeb.
He's just a weeb in a suit. We, sir, are weebs with profession.
Yeah, no joke. He does. Kyle loves both comic books and Japanese culture. Like, those are two things that are his passion in life.
Yeah, I wouldn't classify that as being a weeb, but, you know, off topic, kind of. But as a Green Lantern, he's done quite a few things, like, for instance, he's managed to, at one point, match one of the Flashes. I can't remember which one it was. It's been a while since I've read the comic book. But, you remember how the Flash can vibrate his molecular structure to the point he can go through anything or move so fast he's incalculable? Kyle moved faster than that, but it's like, but that's incalculable. That doesn't make any sense. Like, you can't even use the whole Speed Force. It's like, well, no. Speed Force actually loses in this case. Green Lantern now. I don't have to explain shit. Like, at one point, Flash, like, vibrated his body so
his
he
willpower ain't gonna explain shit.
Yeah, pretty much. Like the Flash managed. I think it was either Barry or. To be honest, it doesn't matter if it was Barry or Wally. Like, they're both equally as powerful with their Speed Force. But, you know, he vibrated his body so fast to the point he was disappearing. Kyle just went like, "Oh, hey, I could do that too." I was just like, when? Even the characters were kind of like, when could he do that? No explanation. He just did it. He was like, okay, yeah, you could match the power and even surpass the Flash. Yeah, okay, sure, whatever. Oh, and you know that anti-life equation thing that Darkseid's obsessed with, which, if you've read the Absolute series, it shows how dangerous it can be. Yeah, basically, it makes you control reality as well as willpower, and makes you realise willpower's a lie. Depending on the writer of the comic book.
From math?
Yeah, well,
No, so
Kyle's basically said no to it. I'm not kidding. Kyle was going to be hit by this, and he pretty much just went no. Like, it's like, but no,
Yes.
but the whole point of the
Equation.
yeah, pretty much.
F to the power of you.
So the life equation,
Nice.
the life equation acts the opposite of a math equation. It's essentially, okay, imagine if somebody came up to you and waved their hand and just said, "You will submit. You will do exactly what you want to do, and I'm not forcing you to do it. It's the life equation that I'm using that is forced." So basically,
I'm good, man.
the life equation will make you submit to your desires, and it will make you just be, I don't want to say one with yourself, but it definitely will put you in a catatonic-like state where you are living your deepest desires.
It's not as good as it sounds, people. Trust me.
No,
Yeah.
and it's very dangerous, and it's pretty much and the life equation does come from the source wall. So the gods of that universe are the only ones to wield that kind of power, and the life equation is just a fragment of that power.
Yeah, like Kyle's willpower is absolutely insane. Like, one, he's managed to overpower pretty much most of like the most powerful lanterns in DC's universe, including when Hal Jordan, like, you know, we saw how powerful Hal was with just one ring. When he had a whole bunch of them, pretty much like the Infinity Gauntlet times 20, Kyle's still beating while as a Green Lantern with just the one ring.
Yeah.
And
Yes,
I want to
that's-
point out that Hal previously defeated the embodiment of willpower in the universe with his own willpower.
So technically, Kyle didn't defeat. He didn't defeat Hal. He did fight him, and he was able to do some heavy damage, and that's only because Kyle was wearing Hal's ring at the time. Hal's ring was given to Kyle, and it was given a little upgrade. For one thing, Kyle doesn't need to recharge his ring.
No, he
and
doesn't.
It also
As long as he
doesn't
didn't have that
weakness.
curry last night.
Yeah, and he also does.
I have
he
suffered from
also
the curry bathroom
have-
breaks. It is not pleasant.
He also didn't have the yellow weakness anymore, so this made him the most powerful Earth-based Green Lantern.
Yeah,
when
well, I
he
remember the
fought
comic book when
Hal-
Sinestro tried to use his ring on him, and Carl just kind of smirked at him, and Sinestro's just like, "Oh bugger." Well, you didn't say that, but
Yeah.
the face he made, I'll try and find it. Like, but yeah, the face
It's
Sinestro
very
made
hilarious.
is just like, "Oh,
Um,
well, I'm right down, and I right in the down under."
and when Kyle did fight Hal, who was Parallax at the time, he was able to do some heavy damage, and he was even able to be near Hal's equal, but it was eventually Hal that threw in the towel the second time they fought. Now, granted, Hal did survive the planet Oa exploding in his face, and he was presumed dead, but then when he came back, Kyle fought him again, and all of the Justice League and Kyle alone managed to convince Hal that maybe he should just give up, and Hal did give up and decided to just try and rebuild himself after what he just did.
Yeah. Well, we know what exactly Kyle's fought by the sounds of it. What about Simone?
Yeah.
What about Simone?
Oh, I was going to actually get into the... I was actually going to get into the White Lantern bit, so I thought we were going to...
That was too harsh, I'm sorry.
No, that was a good reference.
Billy? Go ahead.
No, so I was going to build into the White sort of Lantern thing. So, during like his story arc of, you know... Yeah, let's just say being a Green Lantern has a lot of baggage that comes with it. Now, I could kind of see where Richard would maybe come from with the whole, like... It's kind of similar to drugs thing. I think it was just more so, like... the burden of being a Green Lantern, especially because given at the time, Kyle was one of the last few Green Lanterns. Because, Hal Jordan kind of killed a lot of them, including our boy Kilowog.
Yep.
I mean, you know, big shocker. Kilowog was fine in a few comics later. You know, big shocker. At the time, though, I was broken. But there was just a lot of baggage that came about him because, you know, most of the Green Lanterns were gone. They were dead. Some have joined other corps. So it's like... He had a lot of responsibility. But he was one of the few Green Lanterns that thought there shouldn't be so many different... like, because each sort of Lantern Corps wants justice in their own way. There's actually just one Lantern Corps that is literally called the Orange Lantern Corps. That's all about greed. And it's literally only one Lantern because the guy's too greedy and doesn't want to share the power. But most of the Lanterns want to bring justice in their own way. Some want to be like, you know, the Space Police, the Green Lanterns. Some want to kind of rule with an iron fist, hence the Yellow Lanterns, by using fear, which, you know, fear's a powerful tool, but, you know, you are kind of assholes by using it like that. And, you know, I think we already know what the Red Lanterns were about. They're pretty much the Punisher if they had the Lantern Ring. But the White Lantern was kind of...
scary image.
Yeah, in fact, a really sad story of a Red Lantern and a cat. Cat lost a human that he loved, and he felt so much rage he wanted to kill the people that killed the people that he loved. And yeah, they gave a Red Lantern to a cat, and boy, if cats were destructive enough.
Oh my god, it's John Wick in reverse.
I know, right? Man, an alternative universe where the dog went on a mad killing spree.
White Lantern, Billy.
Yeah, so the White Lantern was meant to be the balance that kind of brought all the lanterns together, including the orange one, even though it's like, well, they're all about greed, but alright, whatever. And so Kyle was the White Lantern. I mean, he wasn't the first White Lantern, but he was the White Lantern that kind of wanted to bring, like, balance. And yeah, because of, like, his wide creativity and stuff like that, the White Lanterns could do absurd shit. Like, you know, Green Lanterns were more about creating things than destroying, and the Red Lanterns were kind of the opposite. Well, now we have someone that can wield both. Like, you know, if he wanted to create stuff, he could create an entire universe. He can destroy an entire universe if he wanted to. Or he could just reset the universe. There's a reason we don't really...
Every other week, it's fine.
Yeah. It's also because of his creativity as well. He can use even the power of the universe to, you know, as a weapon. And also, if his ring was to get destroyed, well, he could just pretty much say no and just rebuild it in an instant. So, yeah, even destroying his ring would not do anything. Trying to erase him from existence? Nope, he is bound towards the existence. Similar to, like, Kryptonians now, which is still a really stupid plot thing. Yeah, like, you can't erase Carl from existence, even if he was to lose the White Lantern ring. You know that whole joke people did, like, oh, what if Alien X was able to remove Hal's ring and just erase him like that? Well, that won't work on Kyle. He could pretty much just summon his ring back. Even if you were to remove the ring, he doesn't even have to, like, go Mjolnir and summon it back. He could just have it just appear in his finger, so even removing it is kind of a mute point. Heck, Sinestro pulled his finger off at one point, it's pretty brutal, and even tore him to pieces, and he just came back. So it's like, yeah, removing the ring is not really a viable option against Kyle, because he could just summon it back without needing to call it, and Richard already brought it up. He doesn't even need to charge it. Not saying he can't charge it, because if he does, it becomes even super max, like he needs it to be any more powerful. Granted, we've never seen that as full max, it's just more so him just flexing. So it's like, okay, that's pretty powerful. The ability to like create and destroy at willpower, to the point he can even just like not take damage. Like he could just choose not to take damage. So it's like you can understand why this ability being so powerful, they didn't really do much with it after the end of the story arc, because it's like, what the f was Carl meant to fight?
So Sean, you had a question about Simone, right?
Yeah, because like just hearing all this stuff about what Kyle fought is just nuts, and Simone is one I'm very curious about too, because the only one I've heard of was like the anti-spiral, really.
Yes, that's the main one. So
is that like the opposite of the spiral force in a sense?
Yes. Okay. Simone, I'll just cut right to it. Simone has fought a lot of creatures called gunmen in his time that are essentially minions of a general who was a spiral warrior, as he calls himself. And after Simone and his troops won a battle, basically cementing that the human race was back and they could now stop living underground and they could come up, build a utopia. 7 years later, after the population populated, Simone was now tasked to try and figure out how to stop the moon from crashing into Earth's orbit, because the the anti-spiral was trying to eliminate Earth since it was tapped with spiral force energy. So Simone went out into space and went up against all of the anti-spiral's generals, his troops, and these were people who had weapons that could essentially destroy planets like that. And he came across the anti-spiral, who exists between the 10th and the 11th dimension. And as soon as he came out, he put, and it also should be noted, it was the anti-spiral who gave his troops what I like to call, or what the show and manga likes to call it, probability manipulation. And that essentially means that their attacks can hit you without actually making contact in the third dimension. Because they're hitting you in every other time stream in the past, in the present, and the future. But Gurren Lagann was able to adapt to this and also gain this power for itself. But then the anti-spiral wanted
I can do that too.
Yeah, that's pretty much... That's what most of this battle's going to be. It's going to be, hey, I could do that too.
Yes, and I'll get into that.
I tell you, we probably should be
wrapping thumbnail of this. But,
yeah.
I'll make the death battle thumbnail of Simone versus Kyle, but just have Booster Gold's face on both Simone and Kyle.
Yeah,
yes,
I'd also say, Richard, we've
So-
probably got to wrap up soon because we've been going on for like nearly an hour. So let's wrap this section up and like get your final points out,
Well, I
and then
kind of
we'll.
feel like,
Yeah, we're not going for
well,
5 hours. This isn't Brobuscast.
Yeah,
well,
like.
you guys kept interrupting me. Okay, never mind.
What do you mean? Oh
Sorry,
my
Rich,
god!
It's just getting late for a lot of them, so...
It's okay.
And plus, a podcast is meant to have more than one people talking. Just saying.
Yeah, it's okay. Well, I'm used to Billy Dragon on the conversation.
What?
Anyway, so all right. Basically, he defeated the anti-Spyro, who had an attack that could that could trap you between the 10th and the 11th dimension. This was called the multiversal labyrinth, and what this attack did was that it trapped Simone and his friend into a actual multiverse that was expanding at a very fast rate. So everything was happening in that universe, and Simon was living multiple different lives, multiple different incarnations at the same concurrent time. And he used his own will power to escape it, and he was able to use his own spiral force to beat the anti-spiral. So Simon's whole thing is that he manipulates both fate and probability. So if you try and he also can break. Yeah, I know, right? And he could also break through dimensions, because Simon and Kyle are going to be the first characters where we're going to get into dimensional scaling and figuring out just how strong are they outside of our third dimension.
Yeah, because the thing that's even going to be interesting is because, like, both their abilities do sound very similar. I know a lot about Kyle's abilities. There was this thing I wanted to reference before we give our final thoughts. There was like there was a continuity where Kyle in his White Lantern form was able to like defeat so many powerful foes that Superman was bored, and him and Lois Lane were just chilling. Superman was bored out of his mind. I'm not even kidding. Like, Kyle managed to defeat so many powerful villains and stop so much crime. Superman had nothing to do. I mean, granted, Lois Lane offered something which, you know, put two and two together.
Bow wow.
So it's like there were some crimes that could be fought. And you know, he's also fought beings that can also fight on that sort of like level where they can affect the entire multiverse. I mean, hell, someone like Superman could fight people on that similar level with just his pure strength, and Kyle was able to overpower Superman on multiple occasions. So it's like, it's definitely going to be interesting how this goes. And so with us reaching like nearly the 2-hour mark of this recording, it's tricky for me on who I'm going to say. I might check out this anime at some point. It does sound really cool. And
it is.
It is a shame, though. This
feel better about your day.
I mean, my days are already pretty great as they are, so you know, I guess it'll make it even greater. I do want to check out the anime because whenever there's like a new franchise in a death battle, like and ones I'm not familiar with, I really like getting to know these new franchises. But because this was made out of spite, that is making me come into this with a bit of a bitter taste. Because when Guts vs. Dimitri came out, I knew nothing about Fire Emblem aside them being in Smash. But Dimitri was actually kind of a badass in his analysis. There was no spite behind this matchup and stuff like that, as far as I'm aware. I'm pretty sure every matchup has some spite behind it. But because this one was so very loud, it did make me dampen want to check out the animes. It's like, yeah, I don't want to give these guys the time of day. But from what it sounds like, it sounds like a bit of a comedy, a bit of a satire on typical anime stuff, so...
There's emotions too, it'll make you cry.
Yeah, good luck with that. Mate and Sean have been trying to find many things to make me cry. They've still not succeeded.
It's true, we have. Feels like Chandler in Friends in that one episode before he actually melts down at every single thing.
From what it sounds like, though, both seem like they have unlimited resources to do this. So I guess it's going to come down to, like, you know, their experience, really. And as well as their creativity. And Kyle just seems like the more creative and more, like, experienced hero of the two. Like, you know, he's been doing this for years. I mean, especially if you count reboots and stuff like that. Especially where apparently reboot characters are the same characters. That's not confusing at all, DC. Why couldn't you just keep it a simple multiverse story? Marvel did it. It turned out.
You just answered your own question.
Yeah.
My final point is that I just feel as though Kyle might just have what it takes to kill Simone. Even if it doesn't like kill him, he could potentially just make it so like he doesn't exist, because of White Lantern can do that. Granted, Kyle doesn't really like using that ability, but...
What if he shells him like he did New 52 Lobo?
he just puts him on a shelf next to him. He's like, the freaking New 52 Lobo's like, first time.
I was about to make that joke.
Yeah, so...
To give my final thought, and then I'll just kind of
No, we only brought you here because we don't want to hear your opinion. Yeah.
Oh, that's fine.
But no. Well, obviously
Okay,
we're gonna
I'll leave right now.
obviously we're gonna allow him to give his opinion. Why would we? Okay, he's gone now.
God damn it.
And we'll give him 5 minutes.
Oh, there he is.
There he is. So Richard, would you care to give your take on this fight?
So in my opinion, I'm on Team Simon. Now, granted, I love Kyle. Kyle was my first Lantern that I got attached to. I did not care for Hal because I saw him on the Super Friends cartoon as a child, and I just thought he was a boring guy. But Kyle was very interesting to me because he was a comic book artist. I love comic book characters, and I've always wanted to draw comic books, or at least at the bare minimum, write them. And I've really believed that WB and DC Comics have given Kyle the staff for the past 30 years. But
I don't think Wile E. Coyote feels.
I know. Well, no, Kyle was in that situation way before the Coyote, so him and the Coyote can actually bond over their mistreatment. But Simon is, after watching the anime and after reading the manga, I love Simon so much, and as somebody who has diagnosed depression and anxiety, him overcoming his own, him overcoming his fears and using his indomitable willpower to always win the day, that appeals to me very much. I do disagree. I think this is just going to come down to who has the more bullshit acts. Because Simon has been using creativity and he's been using creativity when it comes to Gurren Lagann since he was 14 years old. So if anything, when it comes to creations and I guess construct adjacent, Simon has the experience there, whereas Kyle was only inducted into a Green Lantern Corps when he was in his late 20s. So, yeah, and also, too, one last thing I want to say that'll kind of tip it in Simon's favor. When Simon was trapped and escaped the multi-universal labyrinth, it's confirmed in the novel that he absorbed all of the other Simons in that universe, in every universe of that attack. Even a universe where that Simon created Gurren Lagann, and he was writing himself into the story, and he was creating a actual living, breathing universe that was being drawn on a manga panel. So, and Simon has the ability to literally counter whatever Kyle throws at him. He can even absorb all of Kyle's constructs and Lantern energy to give himself a boost if he needed to. And there is a 0.11% chance, a 0.0001% chance that he could actually absorb Kyle's ring and become a Lantern himself. So yeah, I'm going Simon.
Okay then. Mate, do you want to give a 10-minute reason for why you're going for a character?
I can find under 10 minutes.
It was pretty much under 10 minutes.
Like, I don't mean any disrespect, but we know how this goes. DC bullshit. In fact, I will admit one thing that already sold me on Kyle winning was, we didn't bring this up, but when he was a Green Lantern, he held back the Big Bang. And
Yeah.
remember how big they measured the DC universe at?
Simon also survived the Big Bang. His opponent threw a Big Bang actual attack.
Hey, Richard, this is meant to be mate's moment.
I've seen that clip, but this is the DC Big Bang, and it's so many times bigger.
Okay.
And that was as a Green Lantern. We're
So-
talking White Lantern.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm aware.
So, mate,
Comic.
mate, would you like to give your final verdict?
Yeah, I'm just going Kyle, although I also have a couple other things that aren't related to the verdict that I'm just going to bring up now. So you guys know voice actor Yuri Lowenthal?
Damn right.
Absolute legend with over 800 IMDb credits. Jesus.
Oh yeah? Well, I've got none.
Unfortunately, his characters have only lost in Death Battle so far, like Sasuke and Ben 10.
But Spider-Man is one.
And that was before he was cast. Yeah, he's the English voice for Simone.
Oh no.
So if Simone loses to a Lantern, that's the second time that Yuri gets killed by a Lantern.
Oh boy.
And last thing I'll say is that this matchup was unintentionally kind of jinxed by another YouTube channel. I don't know if any of you guys have seen Triple F's Starfire vs. Blaze.
Oh yeah, I have actually.
So, they do this whole thing about how at one point Starfire was a Blue Lantern, and they have it show up in the fight. And at one point when blasting through a Lantern Blast, Blaze spins kind of like a drill. So a drill versus a Lantern. Then the very next day, Chief vs. Doomslayer came out.
I never even thought about that. That's funny. But anyway, so you're going with Kyle as well?
Yeah.
Alright then, so Shawnee, are you joining the drill side or the ring side?
I think this is a lot more complicated than anyone originally thought it was going to be. But... Richard, make room, buddy. I'm going to be Team Simone.
Thanks, man.
I have a feeling that this whole argument of Kyle absorbing every multiverse incarnation thing, like Richard was talking about earlier, considering how fast that was expanding, might be greater than something Kyle's done. And even then, like, if Simone loses, he's gonna give it everything he's got. So
Absolutely.
I'm gonna give it to Simone.
Yeah. I think the main thing I do want from this fight is that, like, they were pretty creative with Green Lantern's episode, I will say, but now that they've got a White Lantern and stuff like that, and, you know, given the character Kyle is, I need to see more creative contrast, especially given his opponent. Because Ben 10 was more so someone that transformed into aliens, really, so this one, I feel as though they can have more fun with what the characters can create during the fight.
Definitely, especially since they confirmed at least one animator working on the episode already, so there's that.
Yeah. I guess with all that said and done, because of some things that will happen in real life, people, there's not going to be a third topic. But I guess where we are going to be, you know, probably moving that towards the next one. Sean and mate, should we at least reveal what our next third topic's going to be? Just to get people a little bit excited?
Sure, why not?
Why not?
Yeah, because of things happen in real life, we can't do it and record anymore, but thank you for Richard for coming on, so you'll get to hear what our next third topic's going to be. We've delved into controversy this episode, but let's have a bit more fun with our third topics. We want to pitch some ideas for at least some matchups, but mainly, we want to see what other armies we want to see in Death Battle. And we've got some ideas.
Cool.
Yippee!
Wow, don't sound too enthusiastic, guys. Oh, wow.
I hear a lawnmower behind
okay.
me right now. I'm distracted.
There you are. See that? Why can't you guys be more like mate? See, it's clear that the Kyle side is more enthusiastic about things. Join the Kyle
I'm
side.
distracted by a lawnmower.
Excuses.
Is that why Kyle might reign supreme?
Oh god.
No, if anything, he's just gonna dig his own grave with those puns.
Eh. But yeah, so we got some ideas we wanted to bring up for this one, because after Bowser vs. Eggman, we've had some ideas of other armies we would like to see. And yeah, we'll let you guys, it'll be on the next session of Let's Discuss Death Battle, assuming, you know, real life things don't get in the way again, but we'll have to wait and see. We'll with all that said and done, thank you all so much for watching. Thanks to Richard for joining us. If you want to see more thoughts from him, he'll be on Brobuscast, and I'll leave a link to their channel in the description down below. Farewell, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Later.